Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
That's right, across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator, FM translator, by the way. Good morning and welcome to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Hi. Thursday. One more day until my weekly therapy session. Which happens tomorrow. That's Firearms Friday. On the program tomorrow, JD Tuchelli from Reason Magazine will be joining us, and we'll be chatting with him about all the good stuff. He's got a good article out recently about the effects of the administration and the ATF on gun dealers and other things. We're going to talk about that stuff as well. And that's all coming up tomorrow on the program, as well as Willie Waffle. So it'll be a fun show, no matter which way you slice it. Today on the program, we're continuing our candidate discussions, our candidate interviews and candidate forums. And we're going to start off here in hour one with Jamie Allard, who is running for House in District 23 in the Eagle River area. And we'll get her take on everything that's happening and what she's doing leading up to Election Day. We'll talk with her. And then in hour two, we're going to chat with Libertarian candidate for Congress, Chris By. Will be joining us, rejoining us, I guess I should say, on the program. Chris has talked to us a couple, 3 times already, and we're looking forward to having more conversations with him as the only libertarian in the congressional race. It should be an interesting discussion, to say the least. So that's coming up on today's program. But we've got a lot more happening, and we're going to be talking a little bit here about the elections and school closures and, everything else. It's kind of crazy out there. Special thoughts going out to the folks on Unalaska this morning who are listening to the program down there in Dutch Harbor and Unalaska. The closure of the both the king crab season and the snow crab season has really put them in a serious bind. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm thinking about you and that is a tough situation. The closure in October of the Bristol Bay Red king crab and the Bering Sea snow crab season is estimated right now, on top of the past 2 years of lost revenue and declining harvests, is going to, well, they said according to Frank Kelty, who's the fishery consultant for the city of Unalaska, it's going to reach nearly $1 billion in losses for the crabbing industry and the regional business sector. And of course, there's a trickle-down effect there. You got a bunch of boats who are, parked in the harbor or went home, and that's 60, 70 boats not buying fuel. They're not buying groceries. They're not fishing. They're not contributing money to the local economy. And it's a tough deal. That's all I got to say. So anyway, folks, I'm thinking about you. I'll just put it that way. I'm thinking about you as you go out there in Unalaska and Dutch Harbor. Okay. What else we got here on the what else we got here going on the, ooh, gosh. Wow, I did not send, I did. Okay. I was just going to say, I did not send the invites to the guests this morning. It was just a window popped up and I'm like, did I not hit send? Did I not? It's what happens when you get older. You can't remember what happened 12 seconds ago, let alone 10 minutes ago. All right. So good. Those are all good. All right. Let's look at what's happening in the election around the state of Alaska. Actually, first before I get too far ahead of myself and dive into the politics, I don't want to interrupt the flow. For those of you who missed it, there was a couple of active shooters reported yesterday at high schools in both Fairbanks and in Eagle River. The Anchorage Police Department said a caller stated there was an active shooter at Eagle River High School at about 1:34 p.m. And in Fairbanks, just a shade before 2 p.m., so about 20 minutes later, there was another 911 call that someone reported an active shooter at Lathrop High School. Police agencies in both areas went to the schools and started a door-to-door search. The students in Eagle River were immediately put in stay-put mode, which means that the students and staff remain inside the classroom. And they cleared the building, verified that there was no threats, and they were able to release the students at their normal time. In Fairbanks, students at Lathrop, Ryan Middle School, Hunter Elementary, and Barnett Magnet schools were all placed in lockdown, and they let all of those kids go, or the lockdown was removed at about 2:20. So about 30 minutes is what it took for them to clear everything and else. This is an occurrence of what we call those swatting incidents, and we've seen these across the country. We saw one here in Wasilla not too long ago. There was apparently somebody at a coffee shop in Wasilla thought it would be funny to call in an active shooter thing at the Target, which is across the parking lot. And it caused a whole big, well, they didn't call it in. They posted it on Facebook and said, I can see this is going on. Oh, God, I hope everybody's okay. Turned out it was just attention seeking. I don't know what it was. But that's definitely not something you want to. All these people got their kids in school and they turn to Facebook and see that there's an active shooter at the school, or people like me who have children who work in retail in that same mall area. I don't understand. I do not understand the mentality of we're going to call this in. The swatting is what they call it when they're making a prank call to 911 to try and attract a large number of armed law enforcement or emergency responders or whatever. So anyway, that took place yesterday, but nothing came of it. Okay, so good news there, I guess, that part. But again, I just don't understand the mentality of that, other than it's the thrill of attention seeking, I guess. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but it's definitely not a good trend. And it is a trend. We're seeing this across the country. There's been several schools that have had hoax calls. And then of course the worst part is that you get a bunch of hoax calls, and then you'll get that one call that's not a hoax. And but they've been hit with so many hoax calls. Do they treat it for real? Do they treat it with the same urgency that they would on the previous ones? I don't know. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody is eventually going to get hurt, and that's not going to be a good thing. All right. What is the what's driving people this election cycle? What are people being driven by? Are they more excited? Are they less excited? There is a Quinnipiac poll that just came out, and it's less than a week to go before Election Day. And it is just as James Carville said, It's the economy, stupid. That is the most urgent issue facing voters today. And in fact, 36% said it's inflation is the most urgent issue. That's 9 points higher than the last poll, which was in August. After inflation, concerns drop off dramatically. 10% are worried about abortion. That's the second most urgent issue for Democrats. Abortion was not a double-digit issue for either Republicans or independents, but it is become a big deal now. But abortion is not on the minds of other voters. Now, here's the breakdown. Among Republicans, 57% rank inflation as number one, followed by immigration at 15%, which okay. Among Democrats, the top issues are abortion, 19%, inflation, 15%, gun violence at 14%, climate change at 10%, and election laws at 10%. But among independents, and again, I will remind you that there are more independents in the state of Alaska than there are either Democrats or Republicans combined. Among independents, inflation ranks first with no other issues reaching double digits. 41% are concerned about inflation. It's the economy, stupid. Right? More than half of Americans, 54%, say the price of gas and consumer goods is the economic issue that worries them the most right now. While 25% say the cost of housing or rent, 12% say the stock market, 5% say their job situation. So those are the economic issues that worry Americans. And amongst Americans and amongst independents, which I think is probably one of the most important sectors you need to be watching and looking at, inflation is 41%, with not a single other issue actually even breaking into double digits. It's the economy. Stupid. That's what it's all about. Now, how enthusiastic are they? According to the Quinnipiac poll, half of the registered voters say that they're more motivated to vote than in past midterm elections. 7% say they're less motivated, and 50% say they were just as motivated as they were last time. But 52% overall are saying they're more motivated to go out there and make a change. Among Republicans, 60% say they're more motivated. Among Democrats, 51% say they're more motivated. And among independents, 47% say they are more motivated. So I don't know how that translates out in anything, but it ought to make an interesting pie chart somewhere. But again, I think that this shows, I mean, we're already seeing it, right? Les Guerra, Bill Walker, Mary Peltola, they're all talking about abortion this, abortion that. They are hitting on the hot button issue of Democrats. The top issue is abortion, 19%. Meanwhile, independents, 41%. Inflation is their number one issue at 41%. And among Republicans, 57%. So while they're playing to their base, they're missing a huge chunk of the people who are out there worried about the economy and other things. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in less than, 6 days now? 6 days? 6 days till Election Day. Well, that'll be interesting. Well, speaking of that, we got candidates coming up. Jamie Allard's going to be joining us in just a minute. We will continue. It's your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. The Michael Duke Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska. On this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. We'll be back with more right after this.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Oh, okay. All right. Hi, how are you guys this morning? I am very excited, says David. Very excited. Also super nervous. Okay. I'm going through here. I'm sorry. Kelly's talking about what? Why would the police officer lie to me and say they were chasing a guy and he ran into the school with a gun? Then it's a hoax. I don't know. The Lathrop scooter was a hoax. I mean, I wasn't there, but that's what I told. Bill Brock got some throttle therapy last night. Unfortunately, I don't think it was the throttle that he wanted. He plowed for 2.5 hours. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. 6 to 7 inches of fresh snow. Oof. Yeah, we got a couple inches here. I was hoping that we could go just another week without any more significant snowfall. I mean, oof. I mean, oof. All right. Interesting. All right. That's it. Oh, Kyle started off the show. I didn't even notice this. Kyle started off the show sitting by a warm fire, drinking coffee out of his 6 o'clock club mug. Good morning. Good morning, Kyle. That sounds perfect. I mean, do you think the IRS would look obligingly at me if I decided that I wanted to build a fireplace in my studio? I mean, you don't think that they? I mean, I'm on video, right? I got to show how warm and cozy. That would be just so cool. Just a little fireside crackle behind me. That would be. I don't know how I would feel. That would be fun, though. That would be, just sitting here by the fire. Oh, good morning. We're just sipping coffee here and having interviews with coffee. Oh, wow. They got 11 inches of snow at Kasilof. I heard that system that was coming in was going to absolutely dump. That's what I heard this morning, or in the thing. All right. I'm sorry. I gotta make sure that I have got. All right. Okay. 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 This morning's interview. Okay. It's one of the few things that I'm not good at, and that is typing and talking at the same time. We have a fuel barge tied off in the mouth of our river in the shoreline of the Bering to get a beat on all winter. All right. There was 4 school buses in the ditch of Kasilof yesterday morning. What, did everybody forget how to drive? I mean, I will admit, coming out of Anchorage last night, it was a little gnarly. I will say that. And no, I'm not driving today. I'm working from home today. That's the beauty of being the boss. I can say, you know what? I'm working from home today. All right. As long as there's no burn bans. Oh, they got the TV fires. Laura says I've got the. Oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Do I just put a TV behind me and let it flicker with the log fire and just run that on repeat all the time? I mean, full disclosure, I do that. I do that in my office in Anchorage. I have a big TV on the wall that I use for when we're doing presentations or having meetings or stuff. I got a big, whatever it is, 50-inch TV on the wall. And when nobody's around and I'm just working all day, especially when it starts to get Christmassy, I play that fire all day long. I just play that, just click the crackle of the thing. All I'm missing is the whiff of wood smoke. That's all I'm missing. All right. Well, haven't seen Jamie jump into the thing yet. We'll see what goes on here in just a second. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay. Well, I'm waiting for Jamie Allard to connect to the thing here. But let's see. She not responded to my email. And she hadn't responded to my text message. So the listeners and I were just discussing the pros and cons of installing a fireplace into my studio because I thought, well, that would be kind of fun. I mean, I'm sure it would be messy and ugly and everything. But then somebody said, well, just put one of those big, put a TV behind you and play one of those the fireplace videos or whatever, which is great, except for I miss the wood smoke scent, just a little bit. You don't want it to be smoking out the whole thing. And then somebody said, well, there's a candle for wood fire scent. So I apparently have no excuse not to put a big TV behind me in the studio and make it sound like, or make it feel like I'm actually, doing that. All right, let's go over to the phones here and see if we can reach Jamie Allard via telephone instead of with the video link that we normally are going to do. And I'm not feeling.
Hi, you've reached Jamie Allard.
I'm not feeling optimistic about that. Okay. Well, so maybe it's just you and me this morning for the first hour. Maybe that's where we're at. Jamie Allard was supposed to be joining us this morning. And, of course, I set this up like 2.5 weeks ago. So I don't know. Can I sidebar? Sure, I can. That's my name. I could sidebar anywhere I want. I notice this a lot, especially working, in business and trying to make appointments with clients and things like that. One thing I notice, if you make an appointment longer than 3 or 4 days out, people just, they just never show up. Or when you show up, they look surprised when you showed up when you were going to meet them and you set the appointment 5 days ago, right? 4, 5, 6 days ago, 2 weeks. I mean, it's insane. It is. They don't remember your name in 2 weeks. I don't know if that's just a recent phenomenon or what, but I've noticed it. In fact, I've told some of my employees, I said, when you're making appointments, do it on a Friday and don't go beyond the next Wednesday because nobody's going to remember you. I mean, I just use Google Calendar. I type in their name, type in their email address, put it all in and hit set the account and they have to accept it. It's right there. It dings them when it's ready, right? I don't know what's going on. Am I still working out of my closet? This is a high-speed studio. This is not a closet. This is a high-speed studio. Now, it may be the size of a closet. I mean, it's 4 by 8.5, but it is still a studio. All right. Well, since it doesn't look like we're going to have Jamie joining us, which is unfortunate, I guess. What should I do? Should I just talk about what I want to talk about, or should I open the phone lines up? I feel like opening the phone lines up. I feel like that's a better. I would love to interact with you guys. Just love to interact. And so if I can get the phone system to actually launch properly, hey, look at that. We'll get it going on here. I'll try not to blast you out. Boom. Okay. So the phone system is now launched, and I guess I will get things squared away. So if you want to call this morning, guess what? There's one way to do it. All you got to do is give us a shout. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Man, it's like we've had so many guests on. We haven't had that full day of open lines or anything else. So it's good to give you guys a chance to talk about whatever it is that you want to chat about here on the old radio program. Oh, so here I am. I'm all alone. Okay, I got it. Phone lines are all up, and we're all alone by the telephone. Whatever it is that you want to chat about, now's the time to do it. Again, 907-433-3150. We'd love to hear from you and see what it is that you have to say. Did you see this comment from Lieutenant Governor Kevin Meyer? He said on Wednesday that he's satisfied with the state's ballot counting process and that they have, that they're working to keep everything secure and make sure that there's no voter fraud and do all this kind of stuff. And he said that they have, that they've done everything, that they have, he said state agencies have received reports of cybersecurity concerns coming from Russia, but that his biggest frustration is that the domestic misinformation over voter fraud is helping foreign actors undermine voting systems. He said they, what was the AP story? They said, oops, wrong one. Sorry, I got two stories here. He's satisfied with the ballot counting process, says there's no plans for a statewide hand count audit of the race, which, of course, because you can't possibly, it would be so incredibly complex, this ranked choice voting thing, to try and count it by hand. That's part of the problem, right? Republican overseas elections in Alaska. After the 2020 general election, Meyer announced plans for an audit of votes on a statewide ballot initiative. That was ballot measure number 2, the ranked choice voting. And he cast the audit as a way to address questions that have been raised about the validity of election results tied to the voting machines. And the audit affirmed the initiative's passage. He says that with that review, election officials were able to show that the machines work correctly. And to him, that means that he's satisfied with the process and that there's enough checks and balances in place that if something isn't quite right, they'll catch it. But that they aren't planning on a hand count, because from what I understand, a hand count is nearly impossible. I mean, that's the thing. The hand count is nearly impossible with the multiple choices, the 4 different candidates and the ranking and everything else. It is, it's a hot mess. So I guess no big surprise. That's no big surprise right there. Okay. What else? What other stories did I had laid up here? Again, you could see Garrett and Walker's ranked choice strategy. There's an article by in the ADN by 3 different folks here in the ADN talking about their Kumbaya campaign strategy. Have you seen all these pictures? I mean, it's, Les Guerra and Bill Walker, arms around each other, patting each other on the back, saying, I'd still be the best, but vote for my buddy here, number 2, and everything else. And that's it's a little spooky because they understand. Here's to me, one of the money quotes from this article out of the ADN. I'll post this story up in the chat room if you want to go back and take a look at it. But the story in the ADN, this is the money quote. Before the event even began, and I think he was talking about the candidate forum that they were attending. Before the event even began, Walker said, considering how to earn second choice voters is, quote, the secret sauce of ranked choice voting, unquote. Yeah. Second place is what you really, really, really want. Because then it doesn't matter if you don't get first place. If you are second place on everybody's ballot, you win. That's the beauty of it. And so that's what this whole thing is about. This whole kumbaya moment, the grandstanding between Les and Bill on the stages. The fact that they released a joint ad with Jessica Cook and Heidi Drygas, sitting side by side and saying, that's just stuff that you just don't necessarily see. But they're doing it so they can get that 1 and 2 vote back and forth, which is why it is so important. And I actually put out a video on this day before yesterday. I put out a video about this on YouTube, and it's a little tiny short video. And it explains why you should not be bullet voting, right? That's the whole thing. It explains why you should not be bullet voting at all. And there's a reason for this, folks. Let me I got to copy this. I want to copy this little link here for folks to copy, because I want to put this back in the chat room. This is the reason why we do not rank only one candidate. What Walker and Guerra are doing right now is exactly what needs to be done for ranked choice voting. So if you're planning on voting for Charlie Pierce, which I know many of us are, you must still vote for Mike Dunleavy as your second choice. Now, you could do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, this is my advice. Because otherwise, again, looking at that Quinnipiac, or not the Quinnipiac poll, it was a Dittman. It was a Dittman research poll. You know, Mike Dunleavy at 47. Bill Walker at 25. Les Guerra at 23. That's 48, people. 48 to 47, their combined votes. 5% for Charlie Pierce. But that 48% for Walker and Guerra, meaning if everybody kumbayas and votes for the other guy second, that would beat Dunleavy by 1 point. If nobody ranks, if everybody, people who are voting for Charlie don't rank that second point. You can't not do it, is what I'm saying. I mean, I suppose you can, but you shouldn't. All right, let's go over here to the phones and see what you guys have to say. We got time for a call here before we run out the daylight here on this part of the show. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Alan from Delta Junction.
Good morning, Alan. What's on your mind?
Hey, your Nick Begich interview yesterday was great. That guy really sounds great, but I got a question for you. You need to convince these older Alaskans because they don't like his parents or his grandparents. You understand what I'm saying? And then they don't like him. You know what I mean? It follows through. And I don't understand that, because he's it sounds like more of an economist type of person, that what Alaska needs. They need somebody to punch numbers instead of somebody that says drill baby drill.
Right. No, I mean, he's a great candidate. And like I said yesterday, one of the biggest stumbling blocks for him is his name. People hear Begich and they immediately think, oh, he's the bad Begich. But I mean, how many people do you know, Alan, that have parents that were completely opposite of them? Either parents who were completely liberal and the kid turned out to be a conservative, or completely conservative and the kid turned out to be a flaming liberal.
That's my brothers and sisters. This is what I don't understand. My dad was a Marine, and they're just totally opposite what he stands for. I don't understand them.
Yeah.
So I don't you know what I mean? And Alaskans need to look harder at Nick, because drill baby drill ain't gonna do it for us.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a Palin ad last night on, I think it was on YouTube, and it was, it was just a cutesy, childish ad. It didn't really, I run on girl power kind of thing, and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for from a candidate. I'm not looking for I run on girl power. What I'm looking for is substantive stuff.
She proved it to us. She proved it to us on the debate. A vote for Palin is a vote for Patola.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will still rank Palin, but she will be down at the bottom of my ranking. Let me put it that way. And Peltola won't get ranked at all. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
You need to.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead. I need to what?
You need to get you need to get the Nick Begich more across. You need, you know, that's what I think. People, these older Alaskans need to just look at them harder.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that they need to look beyond the name and look at the substance. That interview yesterday was one of the deepest dives we've done with Nick, and I think it was exemplar of what he would bring to the office, and I think it's what we need. You know, that kind of ideas. And we'll know. I think Chris By brings some of the same stuff.
I agree with you on that,
so,
100%.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. We are up against the break, so we're going to take that real quick, and we will be back here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't forget, you can come out and join us on Facebook, where we're hanging out and talking in the chat room, facebook.com/MichaelDukeShow/live. We shall return in just a moment to your home for Common Sense Radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. What? One more. Sorry, I just caught this comment, and I don't know what it was in regards to, but Brian just said, one morning, 25 to 30 below, our kids were homeschooled, but bowing up against homeschooling. So I hauled them out at 6:30 and drove them down to the road to see the kids waiting for the bus to the government schools. That fixed the problem. Hello. Yes, my friend. Hello. Mike Shower said earlier this month that if Nick Begich's last name was Johnson, he'd already have won. I don't disagree with that. I really don't. I think you're probably right. I think that he would be the obvious candidate in many ways, especially for mainstream Republicans and conservatives. I mean, I'm still voting for Chris By, but that's just me. And then I'm ranking Nick. And then I'm ranking Sarah down at the bottom. That's how I'm ranking it. Chris, Nick, Sarah. Why? Because if Chris doesn't make it, then my votes go to Nick. Boom. Right there. Let's see. All right. Let me go back over to the phones. Whoops. Nope. They left. They were there, but they left. Brian said that was the deepest dive you've had with any candidate in as long as I've been listening to you. Oh, that's not true. I mean, it was a deep dive. Don't get me wrong, but I've interrogated candidates that deep before. But it was deeper than some of the glossy surface stuff that we've done in the past. I will agree with that. Okay. China Bill was on Problem Corner. He said he is right, she is left, and they will be able to meet in the middle. I was screaming at the radio. Is he talking about his running mate? Is that what he was talking about? He is right and she is left. I mean, he is left and she is further left would probably be the one about there. Has anyone asked Nick about Earth Pulse Press? No, I saw this commentary about he being a part of this is a publishing house that his dad has published books in and stuff, right? And that he was making money from that. I didn't ask about any of that because I didn't think it was really relevant, quite honestly, Morris. Yeah, vote for Chris. This is kind of my strategy. Vote for Chris By first. If he really can't win, what have you got to lose? I mean, again, that's the benefit of ranked choice voting. I still get to vote for my favorite candidate, even if I always voted for my candidate anyway, even if they did lose. But, now I get a chance to vote for both. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Hey, I posted that link up to that video. I'm going to post it again. Would you guys go over to YouTube and share this with your folks? We need people to see this video. and I'm going to do another one today, another short. I'm going to do a bunch of little short videos here in the days leading up to the election, because this is the important stuff. And I'm trying to figure out how to concise everything down to 60 seconds, because that's what they have to be for YouTube Shorts. But I want people to understand how this ranked choice voting things work. That you have to hold your nose, even if it's a candidate that you want. Yeah. Brian says, yeah, which happened more often than not. My candidate always loses. All right. I mean, it's almost always the person that I vote, but I don't care, because I still don't feel like it was a wasted vote, because I voted my conscience, and that's what I did. I liked Nick's comment that math wins. Yeah, man, I used to say arithmetic don't lie. So those two go hand in hand. Math wins and arithmetic don't lie, right? You cannot do that. In fact, I should put that on the back of that t-shirt. Did you guys see the t-shirt that I was putting together that says "Just say no to government dough"? And on the back, I should put "Math wins and arithmetic don't lie." That's what I should put on there. Con form tonight with Rob and Kevin McCabe. That's downtown, right? Downtown Anchorage, Kevin. That's where that is. Listeners also need to share your interview with Nick and point out why he should be number one, said Cindy. You know what? That's what I'll do. I'll put together another video that talks about ranked choice again and say this is the same argument we were just talking about with governors, but now we're talking about Congress. And go check out my interview, and go check out the interview with Nick Begich on it. That's what we should do. Lusac Library, downtown tonight. Rob Myers, Kevin McCabe. They're rounding up and closing out the argument over the con. So go check it out. Wills de Martin. It's the Will de Marston, 7:30 tonight. Wills de Martin Library. Okay. That's it. I think we got. So anyway, yeah. So share the short, and then Cindy, I'll put out a second video today about ranked choice voting with that one, and we'll get back to that. Okay. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Hello, and welcome. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. We were supposed to be talking with Jamie Allard in this segment. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's. The whole thing is I'm making sure that. Yes. Okay. Well, that's how it works. That's how it works. All right. So we got one more segment here before we run out of daylight. Coming up here on the next hour. In the next hour is Chris Bai, who is the Libertarian candidate, and he's been running hard. He's been running a good campaign. We all know that there are underdog candidates, and out of the top four of the rank four, top four voters, Chris is, he's at the bottom with the fewest number of points out of the primary. But he's still running this campaign like it is, he's in it to win it. So I'm happy to give him a little airtime and talk about these ideas and these views. I think it's fantastic. So I'm definitely looking forward to talking with him tonight as well. Also, a reminder that tonight at the Marston Library, the Wilda Marston Library tonight at 7:30 is going to be the discussion about the Constitutional Convention. It'll be Kevin McCabe, Representative Kevin McCabe, and Senator Rob Myers will be there for the final bite at the apple, so to speak, of all the discussion on the CON, why you should vote for the Constitutional Convention. So that's going to be going on tonight. It's also going to be live streamed, and taped. But it's always better if you can be there in person. That's always a good chance as well. All right, since we didn't have a guest, I opened up the phone lines and we're seeing what you guys have to say. So let's go over to the phones and we'll chat with you over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, it's Bob Fairbanks.
Hello, Bob Fairbanks. What's happening?
I'm about to lose you on this little cell coverage thing on here, but I wanted to make for certain. I don't know why Dunleavy doesn't have a not wanted poster with that dividend seat on the other side there.
Bill Walker have a not wanted poster
like that. Yeah. You need to have a wanted poster or a not wanted poster with a picture of him. It's PFD.
Oh, that would be a classic poster, wouldn't it? I mean, just like an old-fashioned black and white, kind of a bad picture of Bill Walker with not wanted across the thing, PFD thief. Yeah, that would be a good thing. Just to continue to remind people that I mean, he's doing a good job. I mean, I find it interesting to watch how Bill Walker continues to try and spin the PFD thing. As he, I threw myself on the sword. I sacrificed myself for Alaskans. I did all these things. And, I kind of find it interesting that, how he's trying to spin himself, so to speak, on those issues. It's pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, I think a not wanted poster would be awesome. And I'm sure some of the talented folks in my chat room, I'm sure somebody there has got some desktop publishing. Maybe somebody there in the chat room can doctor me up a picture of that Bill Walker, black and white, not wanted, PFD thief and scallywag. I think that's awesome. I think that would be awesome. By the way, the same venue at the Wilder-Marston Library Theater, at 6 p.m., so an hour and a half before the CON debate, there'll be a congressional candidate forum, and both Chris By and Nick Begich agreed to show up. So at 6 p.m., Chris By and Nick Begich maybe they'll get a kumbaya together, right? I mean, because I'm voting for them both. I mean, that's who I would, of all the candidates, the 4 candidates that are there, those are the people that would get my vote. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Chris By and Nick Begich hold hands and come out singing Cokes and Rainbows, right? I'd like to teach the world to sing. I mean, they could do all that stuff. That would be awesome. Vote 1, vote 2. Vote 1, vote 2. Oh, the Wilder-Marston Theater is at the Lusac Library. See, I've lived here for 7 years and I've never been to the Lusac Library. So I don't even know what the breakdown is in there. I mean, I live in Wasilla, so I don't really have an interest in doing it. I've been to the Wasilla Library many times. All right. Let's see. Anything else here that is important? Any other phone calls before we run up? Chris By is going to be joining us. Are going to be joining us here shortly. Chris, on the next hour. That's what I meant. That's the word I was looking for, was the hour. Good thing I talk for a living. That's all I could say. Yeah, lots of good responses from yesterday's show with Nick Begich, and I'm glad to see it, and I hope he gets some more stuff. The $2 gas walker promise should be enough to let you know he's not truthful. Yeah, I mean, exactly. How exactly do you plan on paying for $2 gas? I mean, I bought gas yesterday. It was $5.69 a gallon. Or I don't want to exaggerate. Maybe it was $5.49 a gallon. It was up well over $5 a gallon. Okay, let's just, $5.49. Let's just say it was the lower of the two. So exactly, Bill Walker, How are you going to get $2 a gallon gas to Alaskans? Who's going to eat the other $3.49 of that gas? Right? You want $2 a gallon gas to Alaskans? Who else is going to pick up the tab for the $3.50 difference from what I paid for yesterday? Who's going to do it? Is it the state? Is it the the oil companies are supposed to pick it up? Is it the latest thing you saw President Biden threaten executive action against oil companies who didn't drop their prices? What? You want to talk about unconstitutional? Good luck with that. You're going to issue an executive order that there'll be executive action against companies that don't drop their prices on oil because it's hurting you in the election? That's what you're doing? And Walker is the candidate of, I will say anything to get elected. That's what he is right now. I am the candidate that will say absolutely. And you know what? And I'm disappointed because I used to be friends with Bill Walker. I helped advise him on his first campaign run back in the day before he won for governor, before he ran that second time. I was doing everything I can because I thought this was a guy that I could believe in. And I'm so disappointed. You know, he got into bed and kumbaya'd with the Democrats. And then, the next thing you know, he's like, well, I'm pro-life, but I'm going to be pro-choice just because, I bursted off, whatever you say, the dividend. Are you kidding me? Really? I mean, how exactly are you going to get $2 gas and who's paying for it? Because you know what? I got a feeling that it's going to be my children's children who are paying for the $2 gas today. I'll pay you tomorrow for a sandwich today. That's what it's all about. All right. We got to go. Hour 2 dead ahead. Chris Abai will be here. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Okay. Wesley Mooch. I don't know which one that Brian was saying who Wesley Mooch was. Who were you talking about? Wesley Mooch lives. That's a candidate. That's a character from Atlas Shrugged. He was a lobbyist. He was a moocher. He was definitely a hanger-on, living on the coattails. Biden. Yeah. Oh, man. But I love that when Biden gets up there and rails against the MAGA Republicans and the whole thing and ultra-violence, and then says he's going to have executive action against companies that don't drop their prices to consumers. What? That's not how the free market works, man. That's not how the free market works. Are you going to mandate that they sell their product at a loss so that you look good? Is that the point? Is that what we're trying to do here? I mean, is that what it's all about? I don't know. Ira Samuels had a piece up here too about the candidates' positions on abortion. I think it's an issue, obviously, but I don't think it's an issue as big as most people say. Now, it might motivate a lot more Democrats to get out and vote, or maybe mobilize them more. But I think that Republicans and independents are also mobile. They're, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm not even going to pretend to be able to predict any of this now. That's all I'm saying. Whatever happened to Governor Walker's lieutenant governor candidate in the race 8 years ago? He was a good guy. Not Craig Campbell. God, I could see his face. I could see his face. Former Marine. Craig. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, good guy. Craig Fleener. There you go. Thank you, Michael. Craig Fleener. It was a good, he's a good guy. Craig Fleener is a good guy. And he bowed out gracefully. Yeah. Biden promises to raise taxes as punishment on big oil if they don't quit profiteering from the war in Ukraine. Yeah. Some candidates are floating the idea of a state-owned refinery from our royalty oil. I'm guessing that's Walker's plan, says Rob. Probably. I mean, he never really had concerns about having the state take over and do some of those things. He never really had a concern on that. I'm definitely concerned about that. Nick Begich totally nailed it yesterday, says Jennifer. Yeah, he did a good job. Just think if all the Republicans rank for Chris like we libertarians rank for Begich. Yeah, no, wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be interesting if in the end it was Nick and Chris? If it was Nick and Chris neck and neck, and just think what would happen if Chris By in the long run outranked Sarah Palin in number 2 votes. Just think about what that would do in the state of Alaska for the independent and libertarian movement in the state of Alaska. Think about that in the long run. You looked at the candidates and you realized that Nick won, but that Chris By got more second place votes than Sarah Palin. That would have been interesting to see. Definitely be interesting to see. Okay, Rob Myers, just what we don't need, a government-run refinery. Yeah, because government is so efficient in everything that it runs. All right. I'm just making sure that I'm just making sure that I actually did send that email this morning because Chris has also not joined us quite yet. Yeah, I sent it over an hour ago. Okay. I'm just making sure that Chris should have gotten my email with the link. Let me, come in and meet Chris tonight. That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Let me see. There we go. Where we go right here. Okay, send you link. Are you joining? Question mark. Yep. All right, there we go. Okay, where and when? Tonight at the Wilda Marston Theater inside the Lusac Library, 6 p.m., Chris By and Nick Begich. 7:30 in the same location. It is the discussion on the Constitutional Convention with Kevin McCabe and Rob Myers. So, go, fly, be free tonight, Wilda Marston Theater. Okay, well, we're going to continue on here in just a second. Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Around the world on the interwebs at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning and welcome to you. Are you ready for another beautiful day here in the last great state in the Union? That's right. We're the last great state. We're the only great state. It's so good. All right. Today we're continuing. I don't know what's going on with today, but I am dialing the phone right now for our next guest candidate, Chris By, who is hello. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Did you check your email? I sent you the link this morning, and
I did, but I'm not. I'm driving down the road, and these people are crazy down here, Michael. I'm gonna pull in right here, and I'll link in real quick.
Okay, yeah. If you want to do that, I just want to make sure what's going on. Yes, people in this South Central area, they can be a little crazy when it comes to driving. It is.
I love it. I mean, it's exciting and all, but dang, you know.
Yeah, I know you are taking your life into your own hands. I decided that today I'm working from home instead of driving into Anchorage with 3 inches of snow and the fact that people have apparently forgotten what driving is. That's exactly
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sporty, and it's cool. I mean, I am an Alaskan.
Yeah, it's cool taking your life in your own hands. I'm down with it. All right, we'll pull over and link in, and I'll put you on here in just a second. All right, so we're going to be joined by Chris By here in just a second. Chris is getting ready to do that big debate tonight. It's a candidate forum at the Wilda Marston Theater inside the Lusac Library. 6 o'clock, Nick Begich and Chris By are going to talk about their campaigns. And then at 7:30 in the same location, it will be Senator Rob Meyer and Representative Kevin McCabe. They will both be in there to talk about the positives of the Constitutional Convention. And so that's, again, going on tonight, starting at 6 for the candidate forum, 7:30 for the con discussion at the theater in the Lusac Library in downtown Anchorage. And, of course, it will be live streamed and recorded. I have been assured that that's what's going to happen here. All right. And let's see. Let's see what else we got going on here. All right, nothing else. We're getting ready to do it. Coming up on tomorrow's program is Firearms Friday. Your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature here on the program. We're going to talk about guns and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to have, as our special guest, we'll be joined by J.D. Tuccilli from Reason Magazine, who's got a new article out on Reason. I'm linking over to Reason right now to make sure that I got the title of the article correct. J.D. Tuccilli talking about the new moves by the ATF and what and some of the things that are. There's some crazy stuff going on. Let me just put it that way. There is some crazy stuff going on inside the ATF. Did you know that they have eliminated more FFLs in the last year than they did in the previous? Gosh, what was it? 6, 7, 8 years combined. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of things going on, and shutting down FFLs for a simple paperwork violation which is one of the things that's happening, is enough to just make you go, what? Yeah. So some crazy stuff. We're going to, we'll talk about that tomorrow on Firearms Friday and be ready to go and discuss that with him. I hope that you are. I hope that you have been listening to the discussions over the last couple days, specifically about the mechanics of ranked choice voting. I had somebody emailed me yesterday and said, "Hey, I'm looking. Can you point me to the podcast from before the primaries that explained ranked choice voting?" And so I went back in the archive and scrolled backwards until I found it. It's there in the there are several different podcasts or different shows where we talked about ranked choice voting, but the one that I eventually linked to him or to her, Tony, was the one from January of this year, January the 20th of this year. And it is the podcast that specifically talks about ranked choice voting, and it is our interview with Dr. Fred Van Bennekom from the Great Brook Institute. And he talks about ranked choice voting. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to this discussion, might I recommend that you go back and listen to this again? Again, you can find it on my podcast. You can go to my website and there's a whole list and you just keep scrolling backwards until you find it. You can go straight out to SoundCloud and you can do it. Or I will go ahead and drop a link into the chat room with a link to this podcast specifically. And you can go back and listen to it, but it is the breakdown of ranked choice voting. And I just want to say that this is what we need to be paying attention. You may not be happy with ranked choice voting. You may not like it. It may not be, you're just not excited about it. But we've got to play by the rules if we want to win. That's the bottom line. We have to play by the rules if we want to win. And this just shows us more than ever why that is important. So don't bullet vote. That's the first thing. Rank your choices. That's the second thing. Rank the red, or in my case, rank the yellow and the red, because I'm going to be ranking this young man as the first candidate here on my ballot, and that is my friend Chris By, who is boy, that's a nice office you got there. You're hanging out, doing your thing.
It's what we can.
What was that?
It's what we do.
It's what we do. Yeah, it's the best thing that we got going on. Chris By, who is traveling down from the interior for that big forum you're doing tonight at 6:00, right? So that's why you were traveling down on the highways.
Yes, sir. Actually, we were sign holding because soldiers go to work early in the morning, usually, unless there's snow, apparently. So we were out here, Muldoon and Sam's Club, and then we were down off of I forgot the other location, Boniface, somewhere down that way. We were signs, right? So soldiers were coming in. There's one of us on the ballot, right? So.
Right. Well, that's good. Well, Chris, it's been a while since we talked, and I wanted to give you one final bite at the apple before election days for sure. And we're close. I mean, we're right there, right? I mean, we're 5 days away, ready to do it. So give us an update on the campaign. How have things been going? What's the reaction been? What are your thoughts as to watching, as you watch all the other parties kind of squabble around? What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Buddy, I'll tell you, that forum that I did that was on TV, I actually didn't think I did very well. In fact, I tucked tail and ran to back home to Fairbanks. But the following day, my phone, for 48 hours, my phone and email were just ablaze with not just reporters, but actual Alaskans thanking me for running. It was beyond uplifting. That's all I'll say. The myriad of phone calls. The number one complaint I got was that I was too cool for a suit and tie. So
that was the complaint. You didn't wear a suit and tie. You can't be my guy. You're not wearing a suit and tie. That was it.
That was it. So I did another interview for some of my hardcore supporters, and I wore a suit and tie because I can play the game, much like ranked choice voting. Like
Right.
I understand the battlefield, so I feel uncomfortable in them. So I always wear one, and I take it off in front of the camera. It's always pretty entertaining. But
Right. It's stripped down to your shirt sleeves. Let's get down to this here. Let me get down to, I mean, that's worked for some candidates. I mean, let's face it, the candidate's all gussied up and then takes off his coat, rolls up his sleeves, loosens his tie and says, let me be real frank with you. I mean, it works with a lot of people because, there's a huge section out there that has never worn a suit and doesn't care to. So that's who you're reaching out to.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, buddy. And and some of the comments were like, "Hell yeah, I'm voting for that guy. He isn't wearing a suit." So that's a mixed bag, right?
Right. So for everybody that complained, there were probably two people that went, "Hey, he's one of us."
That is correct. And I think I pushed. I hope I didn't come across as condescending when all these people started calling, but they wanted to push money. But honestly, Michael, by now, I don't want to be that guy who's adding to the landfill, with all the
right.
It's like, that's not me.
Hey,
and I don't.
It's biodegradable and it makes great fire starter. You could put out 100, I know people who've got stacks of those mailers in next to their fireplace and they just use them as, as fire starter. But you're right. I mean, at what point does, hey, you know what? I think I need to see a few more political flyers and political ads before I decide who I'm going to vote for.
So what I told them to do instead was a lot more challenging, right? I was like, hey, just go tell 10 of your buddies that there is a normal guy out there who does an interview from a car on the corner of a gas station, right? Just a normal dude. And the response has been amazing because about 72 hours later, I started getting all kinds of new hits on my website and on my Facebook page. So it's obviously resonating. There's always naysayers. I'm a spoiler and all this other stuff. I tell them to get better candidates.
Right. Well, this is the same people that say, "Oh, if you voted for so and so, you wasted your vote."
Right.
There's not a single wasted vote. I cannot tell you how many times that I have voted for the independent, the libertarian, the constitutionalist, the unknown Republican, whoever it is, and they're like, "Oh, that's a wasted." I mean, you voted for. You voted for Bill Weldon Johnson for president, and it's never a wasted vote. Now they may not have won, but it's not a wasted vote. I make my choice and I did it. I never understood the whole wasted vote or by voting for them, you got this guy elected because you voted for this one, you got this guy elected. That's not how it works. This is not a zero-sum game.
With ranked choice voting, that's darn near impossible because you can vote your conscience and then still vote pragmatically if you choose to, right? I mean, that's the beauty of ranked choice voting.
Well, that's the one silver. You and I disagree on this one, but that's the one silver lining on ranked choices that I can, hold my head high and vote for my number one that I want, and then vote for number two and maybe number three because I could do that. But yeah, no, it's the one silver lining that I could see so far.
There's two, right? I mean, we've got open primary. I mean, without an open primary, you and I wouldn't be talking right now. Not as a candidate,
right?
And now, there's a separate issue. They kind of combined it into one, and I understand that argument. But the open primary, if there's one thing we should take home in Alaska and retain, that open primary system is the way to go, hands down.
Yeah. Yesterday we had Nick on and he broke down how the formulation of this ranked choice is different than what the normal ranked choice has been, and how they account for it and things like that. And I that's one of the first times I've heard that argument, and that was a really interesting thing. And I know that you're in favor, and I know a lot of libertarians are in favor of. I mean, I'm not, but I know a lot of libertarians are because I believe in one person, one vote. And I think that's a challenging thing. As you look at this, do you think Alaskans are going to continue? Are they going to understand all the nuances of this, or are they going to look back and say, we need a do-over. We need to go back to where we were?
I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. I have my own reservations with ranked choice voting. I mean, obviously, I voted for it primarily for the open primary because it puts both parties on notice, right? It forces them to think outside the typical politician, mindset, and it makes them work harder, which I appreciate. Do I think they're going to change it? Yeah, I think they probably will. I mean, at the end of the day, those two parties contain a lot of money.
Oh,
And
they hold a lot of the power for sure. I mean, I would agree with you that I don't see as big a deal going on with the open primary. I do like to see more candidates, but in the end, when you have 4 or 5 candidates, all of the same party in the general duking it out, that makes it a little more difficult to try and suss out the differences there. So, but
I mean, people that's the Republican fault.
Yeah.
You try to swamp the primary with 13 Republican Muldoons, like this is the outcome of it.
Right.
So in essence, this whole ranked choice voting issue is a Republican issue. The Democrats out. I mean, they 8 people, I think, during the primary. And then the Republicans ran, I think, 12 or 13 people in the primary. I mean, yeah, when you flood the primary with your chosen party, this is the outcome. Unfortunately, I don't think they expected Miss Sweeney to drop out and some crazy fishing guide to slide in, right? But
yeah, no, I'm loving it. I mean, again, a good for us. All right, Chris, hold the line for a second here. We've got to go. Folks, we're going to continue here. Chris Bai is our guest, broadcasting live from a secret undisclosed location on the corner of Muldoon and somewhere in a pickup truck. That's Alaskan for you there. I love that. That's it. That's typically Alaskan. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show. Common Sense, Liberty Bay's Free Thinking Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break now. Chris Bai, our guest. No, I need those lights. Don't turn those lights off. What are you doing?
Just looks like I got beat up in my face.
No, you're fine. I'd rather see the face than see the dark shadow, because then I'd have to modify your voice and be like, "Yes, I am a whistleblower from way back, and it's all fine. It'll be a good art." Anyway, so I mean, give me, but I think your big breakthrough was the debate. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I saw that, and I saw a lot of commentary on Facebook later on. The parts that now I'll be first to admit I did not watch the whole debate, but I did scan through and watch a lot of your responses because I wanted to see it. I thought you did fantastic. And you know what? I think again, you exposed a lot of people to the idea that a common average every guy, independent libertarian Alaskan could make a difference. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it kind of goes to that Overton window concept, right? We're just moving the football down the field, so both parties are tracking that we are unhappy with them. It is unacceptable anymore to accept the status quo. And
right.
I had a meme. Someone made a meme before I even got off the stage of me just saying no. So I could have been a little bit more. But
right. Well, you get better at extrapolating that. You say no, followed up by all the reasons why, right? I mean, that should be not just no. I mean, I think at the end of the when I was on the assembly in Fairbanks, I think by the end, a lot of people would call me Dr. No, because, it's like, that's all I did. Nope. But I always did explain why. I always explained why I wasn't going to vote no and made the impassioned plea for everybody to join me.
Right.
But yeah, definitely, just definitely problematic. The response obviously has been good. And you mentioned, not taking any money. Are you basically been funding this whole thing on yourself? Did you end up taking any campaign money? Did you get some support and help?
Oh yeah, we took some. I get a lot of 20s and 10s and 40s. And then a lot of it's funded. We took a part-time job to do it because I couldn't work at my federal job anymore to do this, and that's okay. I don't mind. And it was a great place to work, great people, and very, very supportive, obviously. So it's been really, really good. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's no way that a third party is even going to remotely come close to I think the combined right now, if I'm not mistaken, is something like $8 million, somewhere at seven.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got to be higher than that because I think Peltola's got 5. I know Palin had 2.5. Begich is, I know he put 600,000 of his own money in there, plus whatever he's raised, plus the IEs, the independent expenditure groups. I'm sure we're all well north of 10 or 12 million bucks at this point.
There, right? And so as a third party candidate, it's probably more beneficial that you have word of mouth and just, going through tennis shoes, going through snow boots here in Anchorage.
Right.
They've got other options. The status quo sucks, and if we're going to change it, I heard a great guy named Mr. Josh Church, I think was his name, and we've switched out 40% of the players down in Juneau, and yet we still have the same problems. And so obviously it's more than just switching out the players, right? I mean, we're all pretty confident of that argument. It might be time that we actually switch out the platform, right? So we've got different players and a different platform. And, that's what we bring to this table, right? We're bringing Alaska platform, not rich people and not party platform, Alaska platform. And it's been pretty well received, right?
I think so. And of course, you got a huge district to cover, and the costs of driving and flying and doing all that stuff. It's not an insignificant amount. So it's good to see you out there at it. Chris By is our guest. He's been doing sign waving this morning. That's why he's in his truck, because he's sign waving, and he popped into his truck to do the interview with us. We're going to continue here in just a second and jump back into this. No, he's not ride sharing. He's not ride sharing. He probably could be, but he's not. Campaigning on the ride share. It's the Uber candidate. All right. Exactly. All right. We're jumping back into it. Here we go, folks. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio. All right, welcome back to the program. Chris By continues as our guest. Taking a break from sign waving. He's down in Anchorage right now at the corner of Muldoon and some unknown road, waving signs at soldiers as they go to work this morning. And he's taking that time out to pop into his truck here to have this interview with us, and we appreciate him taking the time out. I know it's a busy day today. Tonight, Lusac Library, you and Nick Begich, right?
Oh, yeah.
6 p.m. candidate forum, and you're the only two that are showing up, right? Sarah and Mary aren't going to be there.
That's correct. And I reached out to both of them. More the merrier. But I don't think they're going to show.
Well, it's too bad. I'd love to see that, but you're going to be out there tonight talking about it. Let's get into some of the details and some of the nitty gritty. We had some deep dives yesterday with Nick, and I think that they're appropriate to talk with you about. I mean, first and foremost, the thing that concerns me most about what's happening in Congress and in the federal government in general is, the size and scope of the spend. I mean, we are spending more than we take in, we continue to do so. We continue to ignore it, and the few candidates that speak out against it and say, you can't keep spending more than you take in, it won't work out mathematically. They're treated like they're fringe candidates, the Rand Pauls of the world and the Mike Lees and the Tom Masseys of the world. They just look at them like they're from Mars or something, But Nick had a great line yesterday, very similar to a line that I've used for years. And he says, math doesn't lie. Math will win. Math will win. And I say arithmetic doesn't lie. Those two things are the truth. Eventually, you can't continue to deficit spend and expect that it's all going to be okay. The world markets will only allow for that for a finite period of time. And I think that we're coming to the end of that patience by the world markets as far as our inflationary policy, which is basically just to print more money. And we can't keep doing that. And, you'll make Zimbabwe and Weimar Germany look like a picnic if the U.S. dollar stops being the world reserve currency. All this to say, what do we do about the size and scope of the budget in the United States?
I think this is a good opportunity to talk a little bit about science, right? To have a fire, you've got to have heat, you have to, and you have to have fuel. And I would say our bloated government is that fire. And that fire is fed by money, and that's the fuel of it, right? And I would say the heat is the media and special interests. And then the oxygen side is our politics. And we have been fed this fear line that there's only two parties, and only two parties matter, and there just isn't anything else. I would simply say that in that fire example, right, with oxygen, heat, and fuel, those two parties have given us this problem. We didn't sign up for this. When Republicans want the money, they simply turn without the debt blame. They simply turn to Alaskan Republicans to vote yes with the Democrats. They do it routine. They do it all the time, and every time our Republican representatives belly up to the bar and give us this drug we call federal dollars.
Right.
And the math will not add up because so many people are now on, COVID money or whatever money's left over right now. And those people aren't paying taxes into the system at the same way that a producer would. And so we're never going to be able to get ahead of this debt if we continue to give the same fire those politicians, right? Those same, fire example of the oxygen is still the politicians. And we have the same people going in there every time. We are not going to get ahead of this problem.
Right.
It'll get out of control, become a forest fire. It'll burn everything down, and then we'll all sit back and say, well, why didn't we do any brush clearing? Or why
didn't we do something about this? Well, I mean, some of us have been warning about this for years. I mean, Alaska is the second most dependent state on federal spending, the second highest recipient of federal spending. So what happens when that gravy train stops? I mean, this is a warning for our own legislators. What happens when the free federal money stops and that gravy train stops? But more importantly for the nation, what happens when we can't even, Chris, we haven't even had a budget in this country in how many years? It's a continuing resolution. They have not put together a balanced budget or an unbalanced budget in years. We're on year 14 now of continuing resolutions, I think.
And just look at the administrations that have been behind all that. You know what I mean, Michael? I mean, it's not good enough to say it's DC. That's not good enough anymore because we're sending those people there. So we've got to get past the party politics. We have to start putting people first. And, that's the one thing, if there's one thing to take away from my campaign and Miss Mary's campaign is we figured out that it's the people that matter, not the party. And I don't like Miss Mary's politics because at the end of the day, she is a central planner and, a federal dollars type of person. I just don't think that that's the answer anymore. I think self-sufficiency is the answer, quite frankly.
Right.
And in order to do that, we've got to remove the fuel from the fire, and that would be government spending. Because if we can reduce the amount of money going to government, then we don't have 87,000 IRS agents. We don't have 120 EPA agents. We don't have that junk. And then the local people hold those companies responsible if something is dorked up on the oil fields or in the mining district or wherever, right? But the people hold those folks accountable, or the state, Alaska State, people's accountable.
Well, the problem with giving more money and more money in this federal expenditure continuing to grow and expand is bureaucracy by its very nature needs to justify its existence, right? I mean, that's just how it works. It doesn't make it evil. I mean, I'm not saying it's evil. I'm just saying government by its nature grows. Bureaucracy by the same term has to justify why they're there and why they do the things they do. To do so, they increase, they build more regulations, they build more strictures and what happens is the more we spend, the more government becomes inveigled in our lives. I mean, it encroaches on every aspect of our lives now. And at some point, you're like, they're everywhere and they're spending all this money. If we cut all that off, are you saying we just couldn't make it without, government being in every facet of our lives? And obviously the answer to that is no. We went for many, many years in this country without that. And we grew for many, many years. We just, it needs a pruning. That's the thing. It's like a tree. A tree will go crazy. You want it to grow in the right direction, you've got to prune it. We need to prune the tree.
So I think that's what really separates my campaign from the other two parties, right? Because the other two parties, despite whatever they say, at the end of the day, they are central planners. Like that's how those two parties operate. And there's plenty of historical evidence to prove that, right? And you don't even have to look at the $31 trillion of debt, which right now I think is $31.5 trillion. I didn't check this morning, but I think yesterday it was $31.5 trillion, right? We basically are going to grow $1 trillion of debt in roughly over a month and a half. That's what it's coming to. There's so much money that we're wasting down the drain, and both parties are responsible for that.
Right.
You know, we're not even talking about the authorization of use of military force. We're not talking about the Patriot Act or the Freedom Act. We're not talking about their failure to balance the budget. I mean, we're not even talking about that mess, right? Both parties are responsible for that.
Right.
And, you know, I had a guy named Bill talk to me yesterday. We were messing around at a street corner, and he said, "Hey, Chris, you know what this is like? This is like pickleball or tennis. We've got Serena Williams and Vanessa Williams on one side of the court. The bureaucrats have redrawn the line on that court, so it's really tight and small. And the referees are all the executive branch. And Vanessa and Serena represent Republican and Democrats. And by the way, we're playing doubles, and your double partner just got arrested for something stupid. So now it's you with a bigger court on one side against two professionals on the other side with the referees already bought and paid off."
Right. Well, like, this kind of the dichotomy that you were talking about. I mean, this two-party dichotomy where it's the only answer is a Republican or a Democrat.
Right.
And again, it reminds me of the meme of what if I told you that the right wing and the left wing were all part of the same bird, right? I mean, that's the thing, you know, the left side and the right side, it's on the same coin. It doesn't matter, you know, it's the red team or the blue team. They're all playing the same. We need to basically go in there and say there are other options, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Republican go, I'm going to go in there, and he goes in there, and the next thing you know, he's part of the problem. I mean, it's Mr. Smith goes to Washington and his brain gets vacuumed out and a pod person is substituted for him in his place. Well, we just couldn't possibly cut the federal government. That wouldn't make sense.
I think it comes down to their, you know, everybody has their own fears, right, Michael? I mean, I have mine. I hate cockroaches, like with a passion. It's not even a fair fight. They get killed immediately. But I think when politicians end up at DC, their fear is not getting reelected. And so, you know, if you got someone like me who's already a predetermined, like, you're only getting 3 terms out of me, partner, that's what you get. You get 6 years. And then I'm coming back to the best office in the world, right? The seat of my raft or my seat of my boat.
Right.
And that's what you get. Because then those people don't have the same fear of not getting reelected. And so I think that reelection fear really drives poor decision making, because every time they make a decision, they got to look behind them and be like, "Oh, I hope that doesn't ruin my chances for next year." You know, but if you get someone like who's like, no, no.
Well, yeah. Well, and look at who you're replacing. You're replacing Don Young, the old man of the Congress, right? 44 years, I think, 44 years. I mean, at some point you got to say, why, you know, this is supposed to be citizen legislators, not professional politicians. And that's unfortunately what we've got. That's what we've got is professional politicians. All right. Hold the line, Chris.
You got it, buddy.
We got one more segment. We're going to continue. Chris Bai is our guest, taking a break from sign waving, joining us here to hang out and talk a little bit about his campaign. We'll continue with more. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Chris Bai is our guest. Yeah, I mean, I think if we could get, and I think most people agree on the idea of like term limits, Chris. I know you have a self-imposed term limit, but I think most voters agree with term limits. The only downside I ever see with term limits on politicians is, of course, that gives the bureaucracy a lot more power because they're not term limited out. So I think you'd have to have something in there where people would have to shift branches or something. You'd have to have something in there to shift the bureaucracies around every 5 years or something.
Something, Michael, but politicians do not enforce it. So within the Office of Personnel Management, I'll use the Army as an example. They have a framework that career bureaucrats have to follow. And what happens is someone along that framework decides, oh, I really like it, doing this job, right? I like sharpening pencils for $100,000. Okay, who doesn't, right? But that framework is supposed to be a leader pushing that person along that, not homesteading at sharpening pencils for 100K. And so what ends up happening is you end up having someone like Mr. Young, who sits in that position and hires the same people over and over again, outside of the framework that's already been established by the Office of Personnel Management. That's how you end up with Mr. Ortiz, who fired someone at the behest of Don Young for not getting a vaccine. Like a Republican was in charge of that. He should have been making that movement. And I don't mean to, beat up on a guy who's dead.
Right.
But I mean, good example of the bureaucracy taking care of someone whom most of us were like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Why am I voting for this guy yet once again? And we all held our nose for the lesser of two evils. And when I'm out and about and I tell people that, the first answer I get from Republicans is, well, I mean, yeah, he kind of turned bad about 10 years ago, but we just kept voting for him because, I drank the Kool-Aid and he had an R behind his name. And, I really liked his bolo or whatever it is, they come up with. And
right.
You simply, and I'm, Chris Pye, one each is guilty of that, right?
Yeah.
We're going to try to make something different. And I hope, man, Michael, I hope and I pray that there are other people who will just take up the cause behind me. And I don't care what letter they got behind their name, but they've got to be Alaskan centric, right? And not party centric and not industry centric, but just normal people centric, right? We need that for pretty solid, I think, 9, maybe 10, 12 years to get this boat going. Because it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, even if the Alaskans are crazy enough to send me, right? I mean, I'm going to bail this boat out until my dying day. We will be bailing this boat out. But it's going to take a lot more people to get involved and vote, right? And take part in this experiment we call America. And I think that's what's really cool about our campaign. Like, we really try to encourage people. I threatened to give a dude $100 just to run. I'm like, look, if you got better ideas, you're over here poking me in the eye. If you got better ideas, I will pay for you to run.
For you to file. I'll pay your filing fee. You go ahead and do it. Why is he in a car, says Tim? Because he's out waving signs this morning down in Anchorage, and he jumped into his truck to do this. Chris, I don't know if you do this. I dropped off the stream for a second. I don't know. Apparently, hopefully folks can tell me in the chat room. I don't see anybody saying that we lost everything, but apparently I lost you in the middle of that discussion about bureaucracies. So maybe we should revisit that because I didn't hear I didn't hear how the career track in the military is different. I would like to talk about that again. So I lost you for about 30 seconds there. I lost everything for about 30 seconds. So apparently nobody in the chat room everybody in the chat room says it was all good. So everything was good from your end. I just couldn't hear or see anything. So, hey, that's the first time that's ever happened, which is kind of weird, but I dig it. All right. So maybe we'll revisit that here in just a hot second. Biggest surprise on the campaign trail. What's been the biggest thing that you go, oh man, that was surprising and maybe cool, or maybe surprising and bad? What was the biggest thing that you got right there? I got about a minute.
Alaska is full of really, really bright people. I mean, they should be sitting on this side of the camera, quite frankly. It's unbelievably how bright Alaska really is. And we always think about the grandeur, and that's what makes Alaska amazing, but it really is the people. And that's not a cliche. That's not a politician speaking. That literally is what we have discovered. And they're so willing to come up with like really bright ideas. And we've consolidated those all onto the website, right? But I think what was the most amazing thing, I did not anticipate the money thing very well. I knew it was going to cost a lot of money, but I didn't anticipate that, and I did not anticipate the thirst of people looking just for somebody normal. I honestly, I ran because I looked at the kids that I was coaching and I looked at my own family and I'm like, oh, we're leaving them with 30 plus trillion dollars of debt. But the thirst that's out there, the hunger, Michael, for just.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, hold the line, Chris. We're going to jump back into it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Here we go. All right, we're continuing now. Chris Bai is our guest. Oof. Chris Bai for Congress, libertarian for Congress. He's out on the street today. I mean, not like a homeless person or anything. He's out on the street today waving signs. He actually took the time out to join us. He's broadcasting from his pickup truck today. With a bunch of volunteers out there waving signs and doing stuff. And we appreciate him taking the time out to come and talk with us. During the break, I had a little bit of a technical flaw there, and I lost Chris for a little bit. The chat room heard him, but I didn't. And we were talking about term limits because that was really the topic as we came into the break. Was you mentioned, people being there. You're going to go for six years, 3 terms. That's what you're committed to, nothing more. And I made a comment about, you're replacing a guy that was in the Congress for 44 plus years. I mean, that, we were never meant to have professional politicians. They're supposed to be citizen legislators. But the problem with term limits, as I pointed out, was bureaucracy. And you said, well, there is a solution to that. Term limits plus a bureaucratic limit. And you likened it to something that you saw while you were in the military. Give us the rundown of that real quick, and then we'll get back onto some other issues.
Sure. Just like a service member, there's a framework for their career, and the same is true. It's in the Office of Personnel Management. There's a framework that says you're going to be a nub for this long, and then you're going to go off and you're going to sharpen pencils for this long, and then you're going to go forth and do other jobs within that career format. That's already exists. In DOD, in the Office of Personnel Management, a person can only stay at certain jobs for so long. And once they become, it's called KD in most cases, but once they have arrived at that, year structure, I've been at sharpening pencils for 1 year or 2 years, whatever that timeline is, their leadership is supposed to start guiding them along that framework. And it's true for bureaucrats in DC. That same framework exists, so we just have to enforce that, and that really takes leadership, right? Because some people are really, I like sharpening pencils for 100K. I mean, who doesn't? I have no responsibility except for this number 2 pencil, and I get paid 100K to do it, right? And so what we've got to do is we've got to get a leader in there who says, okay, you're really good at sharpening pencils. You need to train the next guy to sharpen pencils because you're going to be trained to make photocopies. You're going to be
or whatever the thing is, right? No, I mean, I think that's the biggest danger in term limits is that it empowers the bureaucracy, and unless we have a system like that that's enforced, that forces the bureaucracy to move around, they can't consolidate their power base for any more than 2 or 3 years. I think that is, I think that's a good one. All right, so we talked about the budget. We've talked about Congress itself. Inflation, obviously, that's a factor of the budget. Monetary policy. Don Young was a rubber stamp to a lot of things that I thought he should have voted against, because in the short term, it may bring the bacon home back to Alaska, which everybody's all excited about, right? Oh, you brought me the bacon, The problem is that nobody's thinking about the long-term consequences of that, the fact that we are $30 trillion in debt and that our children's children will be responsible for that. So what do we do as far as that? I mean, how do we know that Chris Bai is going to vote the right way on a lot of those things and not get subsumed by the machine, so to speak?
I just let's take that portion first, then talk about the inflation next. I think what's key to this is, I've told a lot of people this, the first thing I'm going to do when I get to Congress is get rid of all the dead animals and put in the biggest table I can find with as many seats around it as I possibly can. You know, that goes back to my Army days where, you know, it isn't so much consensus, it's having a voice at the table that builds a better plan. And then those plans get, you know, they get percolated and then they get refined. And then before you know it, you have a plan of action that is worthy of conducting combat operations off of. And I see running as a representative, representing people, not industry, not government, not anything else, but people, Alaskans specifically. I see that as a stepping stool for returning freedom and liberty to the people and not necessarily providing more money to a bureaucracy, special interests, and all the other junk. So that's kind of how I plan on staying sane and stable. Combined with the inability for DC to infect me long term because I'm only going to be there for, you know,
6 years, right? Yeah.
So now tackling the inflation end of this, government spending is the reason why we have inflation, because it makes money worthless. It devalues our money. The more money that we spend without any value behind it, the more money we have to pay for bread, the more money we have to pay for X, Y, and Z. And then what really exacerbates this is a really, really poor energy policy. Because at the end of the day, everything has to move from one place to another. Unless you're a local and you're using a bike or a donkey or whatever you're using to get your produce to the market. But everything has some kind of, you know, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon to it or whatever, you know, that all links back into
energy policy. Yeah.
And we're failing it on a long history of it, you know, and we've just got to get ahead of it. And, you know, I'm for renewable energies if they work, if they are economical, go get them, Tiger. But don't expect any more subsidies to pay for a Chinese solar panel. Like
Right. Well, and we talked about this yesterday. I mean, again, energy policies are important. I mean, I would think for national security that energy independence would be prime. I mean, that would be a prime example, you know, a food independence, anything that makes us less dependent on foreign entities would be a good thing. And especially since, you know, we talked about the migration where we're going to shut down all this stuff here in Alaska or Montana or Idaho. And you know that exploration is just going to another country that's not doing it as well as we are, that's not clean, that doesn't have the same regulations, that doesn't care about it. I mean, shouldn't we be focusing on American energy policy for independence?
Not just independence, but if you really worry about child labor law, I mean, why would you not do this? If you're really worried about slavery in maybe a country that has Uyghurs living in it, why would you not do this, right? I mean, it goes back to what Sean Thorne said in an interview with you almost 8 months ago, right? I mean, if we really worry about human rights, if we really worry about the environment, then we would be processing as much as we possibly can here in America where we have oversight. I mean, that just makes sense to me. The idea that we're going to rely on a 6 or a 12-year-old to dig up cobalt for every electric vehicle is just
right
nauseating. No, it's beyond nauseating. It's beyond frustrating. It angers me. Like deep down inside, it angers me. Or we're going to rely on Uyghurs to build lithium batteries at a slave camp. I mean, no, not on my watch.
Yeah.
Hell no.
We've got to have that. We've got to have that energy independence for national security and just viability reasons. We need to have that. You also bring a unique perspective, and I'm running out of time here, so I need a 2-minute answer on this. You bring a unique perspective to the idea of foreign wars and things like that with your military service, and where you come from. What are your thoughts on what we're doing right now? And as congressman, what would you fight back for when it comes to, you know, the progress and the presentment of wars or military action?
Sure. I think the one thing I take away from being deployed in Afghanistan and Iraq is DC is more concerned about spending money than they are about spreading freedom and liberty around the world. That is not what DC does. They spend money. And they spend copious amounts of money. And I would say, Ukraine is a good example of that right now. I think they're up to almost $30 billion, and most of that is lethal aid. Most of it, like I think 27 billion of it actually is lethal aid. And all of that went to, military industrial complex, make, Lockheed, Boeing, whatever, you name the enterprise, but they are getting filthy rich off of this tragedy. Filthy rich. And I just think that European nations can start coughing up more. It's at their front doorstep after all. So that's really what I really kind of pivot on. And it's not that I don't want freedom for Ukraine. That's not it at all. But I just simply see the way that we're going about it. We're just making other people rich, and we're not necessarily focused on that freedom and liberty. And there's a lot of examples. And I would say, our foreign policy has always been about, the I'm not touching you game, right? Like, your little kid's like, I'm not touching you. And they're like, okay, you're just annoying the piss out of me. At some moment, I'm going to touch you, right? And that's really what we're doing in our foreign policy for years. That trip of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan is a classic example of that.
Right.
Totally. Obviously to deflect her DUI husband and some other junk, insider trading and things like that. But that was self-inflicted. We did not need to do that. And oh, by the way, we actually sold China oil from the petroleum reserve, like weeks after that. Like, we're not even helping at this moment.
Yeah, no, it's some insane stuff. All right, we're down to the last couple minutes. You've got to get back out to wave signs for people who are passing you on the road. Chris Bai is our guest candidate for Congress on the Libertarian ticket. He's out sign waving this morning, and he's joined us here for just a short break. 90 seconds here. Elevator pitch, Chris. Where do folks find out about you? Give it to me.
Hey, look, my website, it's timealaska.com, because we thought it was time for Don Young to retire, and put new blood in there. And not just blood of the same flavor, but Alaskan blood, right? If we want the status quo, you have 3 candidates to choose from. If you want something different because you think the status quo sucks, there's really only one candidate you can choose. That's me. And I know, rank however you want to rank. I encourage you to rank everybody that you feel comfortable with. Don't rank people that you're not comfortable with, but make sure you've researched all of your candidates. My name is Chris Bai. I am just a fishing guide, and I can take input from the tower, right? From folks who've got good ideas. That's what we're all about. And I would simply say that it is time. It is time to go on a different pathway. And I understand it takes bravery. I understand it takes courage, but we can do this together.
Chris Bai, he's getting my number 1 vote. Nick Begich, number 2. Sarah Palin holding my nose and doing 3rd. That's how it's working. I'm ranking the yellow and the red. That's how it's working. All right, Chris, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us. We appreciate it. Folks, tomorrow it's Firearms Friday. Be kind, live well, love one another. All right, Chris, final bite at the apple.
Man, I got to do a shout out. I know I said this on the first one, but it's pretty pick and sweet to have listened to you and a handful of others for years, right? When I was wearing a different uniform,
right?
Here I am, like, actually discussing policy and a way forward, right? Not the way, but a way,
right?
And it's pretty humbling, I'll tell you that right up front.
Yeah, no, well, I appreciate that. I think you're doing a good job, and I love to highlight people who I think are trying to do the right thing. That's the whole point here. But I want you to have, this is the final bite at the apple. So if there was something that we didn't get into that you wanted to think, or something we did get into that you want to go a little bit deeper on here, I got about 3-4 minutes. I'll just kind of give you the floor and let you, masticate on it, so to speak, here for a little bit and get through it.
Sure. For all of your audience, the thing you need to know is I'm not alone. Point blank. I am one of 27 other libertarians running for an office. Most of those are at the federal level. But here at the local level, you've got 2 fantastic candidates that put the Republican and the Democrat candidates for their locations to shame, right? You've got the Eskimo Libertarian, Megan Trupp. You've got McCall Insalaco down in Anchorage. These guys are phenomenal thinkers, and they put freedom and liberty ahead of just about everything else outside potentially their family. And they are just solid people. And I want folks to know that, right? It's not necessarily a plug for them. It's an idea that Chris Bai ain't alone. And, we can get this accomplished, but it takes bravery, right? It takes a little bit of courage to think outside of your political pathway. You know what I mean, Michael?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It takes a little effort, it takes a little courage, and it takes walking outside the lines. I mean, again, we mentioned this earlier where people say, "Oh, that's just a wasted vote." You got to stop. You got to stop listening to people like that say, "Oh, this candidate is a wasted vote," because maybe your candidate didn't win, but there's no vote that's wasted. And if enough people put that junk aside, guess what? All of a sudden, that candidate that they said was a wasted vote, well, all of a sudden, they're a viable candidate.
I would say a wasted vote right now would be anything that increases the status quo. That to me, that's a wasted vote. We already know both parties have given us countless dollars of debt. I mean, it's going to take a century to pay that off. They've already given us the Patriot Act. Both parties have given us HMOs, right? They've monetized our health care. That didn't occur before Ronald Reagan. That's not how that went down.
Right.
PrEP Act with George Bush, and that's why we can't go after Pfizer and Moderna for poor vaccines. I mean, that is the status quo. So if you want to throw your vote away, that's how you do it. You vote for one of the two parties. That is a throwaway vote. If you take a leap of faith onto somebody and that person fails, then you didn't throw away your vote. What you really did was you told the two parties that your concern outweighs the direction the parties and the historical evidence the parties have given us. That's what that, and it's moving all down the field.
Yeah, because again, left wing, right wing, still the same bird, right? I mean, we got to bust this two-party dichotomy, and we're seeing it in some states. Again, more libertarian candidates, as you said, 27 candidates across the country, more and more people, and the majority of people, first of all, identify with libertarian ideals, and second of all, in most places, the Republicans and the Democrats together are actually a minority compared to the independents who are out there, and that's who we need to be talking to.
Yes.
Somebody said, "Where's Sarah? Where's Mary?" They've all been invited to this program. Everybody's been invited to this program. You know who came several times? Chris By and Nick Begich. Those are the two guys that showed up time and time again. Sarah's people were like, "Oh yeah, we'll get back to you." I never heard from Mary's people ever. They don't want to come on here. They don't want to talk with you. Les Guerra was scrambling to come on the program. He wanted to come on the program and talk with me again. He's willing to do it. I got to give the guy kudos. He knows that we don't agree, but he still wants to come on and talk about stuff. I think that's fantastic. I love to talk to people that I disagree with in a nice, polite way. Courage. Yeah, that's willing to come on. I think that's great. No, Sarah didn't want to show up. She definitely wants to go press the flesh at the outdoor show or whatever, and the Go Winter Expo and shake hands and see everybody and take pictures. I didn't go over and see her. I mean, if you're not going to come and show up on the show, why do I want to go over? This is not about celebrity. This is about getting the job done, right? It's about getting the job done, and that's the thing. Go ahead.
My last line, one of the candidates stole my line that I don't have any special interests other than Alaskans, right? I mean, Ms. Palin did a really good job of stealing that from the Ayoga forum from me, but that's cool. But I think the point was made that every federal dollar has strings attached to it, right? And some of those strings are really thick. Just imagine the strings that are attached to political donations. Imagine a web of insidious control that political donations bring with them. And I just want people to take a look at that, right? I mean, if we think federal dollars are bad, you ain't seen nothing yet, baby. I mean, just look at those political donations, and you can quickly see how re-election becomes an issue. And if you just take that off the table and say term limits are the way to go, then you've solved part of that. And yeah, we got to get after the bureaucracy, because wherever there's instability, there will be a stabilizing force, right? We already figured that out with the Taliban. This isn't complicated.
Right.
So you're right. We've got to get after the Office of Personnel Management and work that framework out. I completely concur with that.
Yeah.
But we're never going to get there if we don't have the courage to put someone there in the seat.
Yeah, no, and I love it. And again, not a wasted vote. It's going to be, for me, it's Chris By 1, Nick Begich 2, Sarah Palin 3. I mean, no, it's just what I'm going to do because I couldn't stomach having Peltola in there for the long term. I'm wondering if you and Nick are going to get together and hold hands and sing "I'd Like to Give the World a Coke" kind of thing, where you guys can get, because I mean, that would be perfect. Either one of you would be great, right? I mean, I would love to see either one of you in there. But I think that would be great.
I don't have to answer to Kevin McCarthy or Mitch McConnell.
It's the truth. Hashtag Hashtag hard truth right there. That's it right there. Hashtag hard truth. All right. Well, Chris Bye. Thank you, my friend. Good job. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy. I'm not going to make it into your candidate form tonight, but I'll be watching on the live stream. And so that's tonight, 6:00 at the Lusac Library in the Wilder Marston Theater. 6 o'clock for you and Nick Begich. You're going to duke it out in a friendly fashion. And then of course, Kevin McCabe and Rob Meyer at 7:30 in the same location for the ConCon debate, which we didn't even talk about the ConCon. You all in favor of the ConCon?
You know, I really like it, right? Because the founding fathers for Alaska figured out that a living document is incredibly important because you can adjust it for the needs of the people, and I find that exhilarating. But after being in the campaign trail, the amount of money that's going to be pumped into this thing is going to be astronomical. So, people like, Frank Tomacheski, if he makes it to Juneau, like those folks got to come up with a way that prevents outside money from influencing it. I don't know how you maintain, the First Amendment with freedom of speech and everything else. But if we're going to have a real live Alaska centric ConCon, then we've got to somehow figure out how to reduce the money influence train.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's important. We got to figure out a way to do that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I mean, we got to do something at this point. But anyway, I'll let you get back to waving signs. Chris Bye, congratulations, my friend, on being up here in the top 4. And I hope that, whatever we do for you, that you make enough of a splash that it gets other people's activated, and that we'll see you again soon in some other format. If for some reason you don't succeed here, we hope that you'll continue on this path.
Volunteerism and service is in our blood, right? And that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Chris Bye, candidate for Congress on the Libertarian ticket. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right. Folks, that means that we're up to the end. We're up to the end. We actually went a little longer but I don't care. It's my deal. I can do whatever the hell I want. That's what it's all about. All right. Appreciate you guys coming in. The gold wave, says Eskimo Libertarian. Yeah, Tony, I think that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Eskimo Libertarian in the house as well. All right, folks, thank you so much for coming in. We will see you tomorrow for Firearms Friday. Don't forget to go out there and take a look at that. Take a look at that link. Where is it? Right here. Blink. This is the short that I put out on ranked choice voting. I need more shares on this. So you don't have to share this show. Share that show. I'm going to do another one today talking about ranked choice voting in the congressional race. And I'll have a link to yesterday's interview with Nick Begich as well in it, which was another great deep dive. All right, my friends, we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Goodbye.